What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media outside of Gillette Stadium as the Patriots are on their bye week, but we are not here at CLNS getting you Patriots coverage down here in Foxboro. Reminder, we are powered by Prize Picks and Game Time. Head over to Prize Picks, use code CLNS. You get $50 instantly when you play $5, and head over to Game Time, use code CLNS. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, Taylor, we graded the offense. Now let's grade the defense position by position. We're going to start with the defensive backs. We're going to group the corners and safeties together. A group that's led by Kyle Duggar, Christian Gonzalez, obviously Jabril Peppers is back, and a couple other younger guys at cornerback. So what do you grade the defensive backs so far for this season?
I'm going to go with a C for the defensive backs. Christian Gonzalez obviously puts this grade on his back. He's been an A+ this season, should be an All-Pro, at least a Pro Bowler this season. Goes up against the top opponent almost every single week, and when he doesn't, he's taking a harder job where he's living on the boundary in those one-on-one matchups. Only one of just two cornerbacks to be targeted deep at least 10 times, only give up one catch. Absolutely remarkable from him. Done a great job preventing those deep plays. Can't say the same for other people in the secondary. Jonathan Jones, for the most part, he's been good, but that Rams game just left a really bad taste in your mouth. Maybe the worst of his entire career, and it's hard to say that his performance there didn't ultimately make the difference. So I got to dock him somewhat. And Marcus Jones, been highly competitive. Honestly, I'd probably give Marcus Jones a B-, borderline C+ for his efforts because he has been responsible for some coverage breakdowns. But at the same time, even though he's gotten picked on against guys like Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle, he's been competitive and typically ends those matchups on top by coming up with a breakup and a got-to-have-it situation. So got to give him credit there. But then you look at the safeties now. Del Pettis, Jalen Hawkins have done pretty much as I think you could really expect. Jalen Hawkins really did rise to be that third safety, but even still, you weren't expecting a ton from him. Hasn't been a major liability for the most part. And Del Pettis, I think, if anything, has exceeded expectation as a UDFA, someone who's given them some quality defensive snaps. Jabril Peppers has just missed so much time, although he is a difference maker when he's on the field. Hard to really grade the defense with him involved in that, although he has been solid. But then Kyle Duggar. The way that Christian Gonzalez raises this grade, Kyle Duggar really drags it down. So many miscommunications when he's been on the field. Also just poor play in general. Now, he has dealt with an ankle injury and some different things throughout the season. You do have to factor that in at some point. But the mental mistakes are really the issue for me because they've been present somewhat in other seasons, but because he was making you so many plays, you're willing to put up with it. This year, not making as many plays. He had the forced fumble in week 1 against the Bengals, but really been quiet since then when he's been on the field. So you mix that lack of production that we expected, the contract that he got, which understood if he left the team, you would have had a really big hole to fill and not any ways to really fill it. Justin Simmons, very different type of player, but Kyle Duggar has been really, really disappointing, unfortunately. And even Marte Mapu, a guy who has shown flashes, someone that I expected to take a big jump in year 2. He missed some time and had a smaller role with a neck injury and some things he's dealt with this season. But when he has been on the field, he's had lapses as a run defender and some mental mistakes in coverage, even though he has also made some plays. So this defensive back room, it's been, I would say, the strength of the defense, but they've also been way too inconsistent for me to give them anything other than a pretty solid C.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Christian Gonzalez and everybody else, and we need to see a lot more from Kyle Duggar, who was paid this offseason and hasn't done much at all. You really need to see a lot from him down the stretch and into the next season of his contract. All right, let's move on to the linebackers. Let's take the pass rush out of it. Let's grade the off-ball linebackers for the Patriots this season.
Off-ball linebackers, this is one you kind of want to grade on a curve because you got no Juwan Bentley. Close to an incomplete, but you've had a lot of snaps from guys like Christian Ellis. Obviously, Raekwon McMillan no longer on the team, but I'll give this group, let's say, a C-. I'll say that Jelani Tavai, I do think, has played better in recent weeks. He's been asked to be more Juwan Bentley than Jelani Tavai, and I do think he's a player where he's really better as a Robin than he is a Batman. Right now, he's pretty much playing Batman with his Robin as it used to be Raekwon McMillan. He was cut because he wasn't playing well enough for that group. And then Christian Ellis, who has really been impressive for somebody who was really only a special teamer last season. He's given them something in coverage. He's given them some blitzing ability. Even run defense, he's been impressive. Recognition has been spotty. And again, you'd expect that from a guy without a ton of defensive experience in the system. Had a little bit in Philly, but still, you can tell that he's not quite as experienced as you'd like. So I'll go C- because this is a group that had a lot thrown on it. Linebackers are a massive part of this Patriots defense. Jelani Tavai struggled when he had to adopt a new role, but I do think he's been more consistent. Still just not what you really want from a group that, again, is usually so important in this system.
Okay, pass rush. The reason I paused and the reason I stopped is because it's a tough group. It's probably been the worst part of this entire Patriots season so far. Grade the pass rush so far through 13 games.
I think like a D-.
Just give him an F.
Come
on, just do it.
I want to give an F, but no, the D- is because Keon White, he hasn't gotten to the quarterback very much recently. No sacks, no hits in weeks, but he has gotten his hurries. They're playing a lot of quarterbacks to get the ball out quickly, and I have to say that Keon White, week in and week out, has at least a couple of rushes where he ends up affecting the quarterback and forcing some not so great decisions. So he's been putting this pass rush on his back, but really nobody else. You get Yannick Ngakoue, hoping he adds some juice. He's been pretty much a non-factor. Anthony Jennings really being overused. I think we like the idea of him being more of an every down player because maybe he's got some pass rush that he can bring now that he's got more opportunities. But really, I think it's more taken away from his ability to stop the run because he's being used so much. Not really much of a factor himself as a pass rusher, although he has been solid, all things considered. But then the interior defensive line, sometimes you get something from, an Eric Johnson. Jaquelin Roy had a couple sacks in his first 2 games, but really not much at all from that interior group. Even Christian Barmore, he returned, but is still on the mend, so the pass rush hasn't been there. That's been an issue since last season. I know it's easy to forget because Barmore was healthy and he was putting the pass rush on his back. Had Mac Wilson as well, but the pass rush hasn't been great for the Patriots now for 2 years straight. And this year, I want to throw Dietrich Wise in there. He's been pretty solid in his opportunities, but yeah, I don't think enough from this pass rush in an area that they desperately need to fix this offseason.
D-, I agree. I wanted to give him an F2, but you mentioned Keon White, who's been one of their better players on that side of the football. Self-inflicted, I think, as well. When you trade Matthew Judon, you trade Josh Uche, but they also needed to do that to recoup some draft picks. You eat it this year, and hopefully you bring in a better pass rusher and edge rusher next year.
And I do want to give them credit for containing mobile quarterbacks. For the most part, they've done a much better job since struggling there. So, fringe D-, I'll go.
All right, there we go. All right, finally, interior defensive line. Let's talk more because you mentioned a couple of them there with the pass rush. Interior defensive line against the run, how have they been? What's your grade?
I think Devon Godchaux's been really good. But then again, you got Daniel Ekuale. This is one I'm going to grade on a curve because I know people like to pick out the plays where he's done poorly, but Daniel Ekuale is playing more than anybody could have expected before Christian Barmore's injury. He is not a guy who should be playing as much as he is, and I think that leads to, at times, it looks like he's not trying, but frankly, I just think he's gassed because, again, he's never been a guy who plays as much as he has right now. I think for the most part, he's been solid as a guy who's a bit undersized, doesn't have the longest arms, but he's held his ground, he's made some plays, but still also been a pretty glaring issue for this defense. Jaquelin Roy, I thought, looked really good in his last few games, but he hasn't played in a while due to a neck injury. Then you got Eric Johnson, he's been fine. Jeremiah Farms has had some splash plays, but been inconsistent. I think the best I can really give this unit is a C+ because you got no pass rush. I think you put in a tough spot with the interior with the loss of Lawrence Guy, not having Barmore. Those are 2 critical losses at that defensive tackle spot. But at the same time, I think they have been better against the run than maybe you'd expect, even if they are allowing offenses to have at least consistency, if not explosiveness.
Yeah, I think if you had Christian Barmore there, a healthy Christian Barmore there all season long, that grade would be much better. But I'm with you. You need a lot more from that group. All right, those are our grades here on Patriots Press Pass for the defensive side of the football through 13 games. We'll see if they can improve on them down the stretch in their Final 4.